A week before our wedding, I discovered my fiancé and my brother had matching tattoos. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, until I saw where they were inked. I had always imagined the week leading up to my wedding would be filled with joy, last-minute excitement, and maybe a bit of stress over flower arrangements or seating charts. But instead of worrying about the cake or the guest list, I found myself standing in front of the bathroom mirror, my heart pounding in my chest, staring at the eerie similarity between two tattoos, one on my fiancé's wrist and the other on my brother's. At first, I tried to convince myself that it was nothing, a simple coincidence. Maybe they had gone out drinking one night and gotten matching tattoos on a whim. But something about it gnawed at me. The ink looked too fresh, the placement too deliberate. And more than that, the way both of them had been acting lately, quiet glances exchanged when they thought I wasn't looking, hushed conversations that ended abruptly when I walked into the room, had been unsettling. I had first noticed Jake's tattoo 3 days ago. He had just stepped out of the shower, a towel hanging low on his waist, when he reached for his toothbrush. That's when I saw it, a thin, black design peeking out from beneath his wrist bone. A delicate, intricate pattern that I couldn't quite make out. "What's that?" I had asked, brushing my own hair, pretending I wasn't analyzing every inch of his expression. Jake had barely glanced down. "Oh, this? Just something I got with a friend a while back." A friend. It wasn't the tattoo that struck me as odd. It was the way he had said it. A little too quick, a little too casual. As if he had rehearsed the answer. I had let it go then, but 2 days later, I saw it again. Only this time, it wasn't on Jake. It was on Ryan. We were at my parents' house, having dinner, when Ryan had reached for the bottle of wine across the table. His sleeve slid up just enough for me to see the same delicate, black lines curling around his wrist. My stomach had twisted. "What's that?" I had asked, my voice coming out sharper than I intended. Ryan had pulled his sleeve down instinctively. "Huh, your tattoo. Where did you get it?" He hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. But it was enough. "Oh, got it a while ago," he muttered, stuffing a bite of food into his mouth as if that would end the conversation. My eyes flickered to Jake, who was suddenly very focused on his plate. I didn't say anything else that night, but my mind wouldn't let it go. It wasn't just the tattoos. It was the way they both reacted to the question. If it was just a silly coincidence, why did they look so uneasy? And then, tonight, everything changed. I had gone over to Ryan's apartment after work, hoping to clear my head. He had invited me over to pick up a box of old childhood photos he had found while cleaning. I figured it would be a good distraction from my paranoia. But when I arrived, Ryan had just come back from the gym, his t-shirt damp with sweat. As he pulled it over his head, I saw it. A second tattoo. Not just a random design, but the exact same one Jake had. In the exact same, an intricate design that was far too specific to be coincidental. I felt the air leave my lungs. "Ryan," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Where did you get that tattoo?" He froze, his muscles tensing as if I had caught him doing something illegal. "Oh, he chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's, just something Jake and I thought would be cool." "You and Jake?" My throat tightened. "Yeah, you know, bonding thing." Bonding thing. I didn't know what made me ask the next question, but something inside me already knew the answer before I spoke. "When did you get it?" Ryan hesitated, his lips parting slightly, as if weighing his options. Then he looked away and muttered, "Last week. Last week. A week before my wedding." My blood ran cold. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, staring down into an abyss, knowing that whatever truth lay at the bottom was going to destroy me. "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice cracked. Ryan forced a laugh. "It's not a big deal, Em. Not a big deal." Something inside me snapped. I stepped closer, my pulse hammering in my ears. "Ryan, why the hell would you and my fiancé get matching tattoos a week before my wedding?" He swallowed hard, avoiding my gaze. I could see it now, the cracks in his expression. The way his hands clenched into fists, the way his eyes darted toward the door as if he was searching for an escape. "You're overthinking it," he said quickly, too quickly. I shook my head. No, I don't think I am." And then, before I could stop myself, I did something reckless. I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and dialed Jake's number. Ryan's face went white. The call rang once, twice, 3 times. Then, "Hey, babe," Jake's voice came through the speaker. I stared at Ryan as I spoke. "Jake." Where did you and Ryan get your tattoos? There was silence on the other end. A long, heavy silence. Then, finally, Jake sighed. Emily, can we talk about this later? No, we couldn't. Because at that moment, I knew whatever they were hiding, it wasn't something I was going to like. And I wasn't sure if my wedding was even going to happen anymore. I ended the call before Jake could say anything else. My hands were trembling so badly that I almost dropped my phone. Ryan stood frozen in front of me, his shirt still hanging from his fingertips, his face pale as if he had seen a ghost. Emily, he started, stepping forward, but I took a step back. Don't, I snapped. My voice laced with something unfamiliar, something that felt dangerously close to fury. Don't say a word unless it's the truth. Ryan exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. His usual cocky, laid-back demeanor was gone, replaced by something I rarely saw in him: panic. I need you to listen. I am listening, I interrupted, my chest rising and falling rapidly. I've been listening, watching, and piecing things together all week, Ryan. But I'm done guessing. I want the truth. Now. He clenched his jaw. It's not what you think. I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. Oh, because what I think is that my fiancé and my brother got matching tattoos a week before my wedding and are lying to my face about it. What exactly am I getting wrong? Ryan swallowed hard. It's complicated. I threw my hands up. Of course it is. But here's the thing, Ryan. When two people are about to get married, there aren't supposed to be complicated secrets lurking in the background. I could see the war in his eyes. He wanted to tell me something, but at the same time, he didn't. Fine, I muttered, shaking my head. I'll just ask Jake myself. I turned toward the door, but before I could leave, Ryan's hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. Please, he said urgently. Just don't go yet. Let me explain. I yanked my arm away from him. You have 1 minute, I said coldly. Ryan hesitated, then took a deep breath. Jake and we made a pact years ago, back in college. I blinked. A pact? He nodded, rubbing his temples as if the memory physically pained him. It was stupid. We were drunk, young, and we were close back then, okay? Closer than we are now. I folded my arms, staring at him. And this pact was, what, exactly? Ryan hesitated, then said that no matter what happened in life, we'd always be connected. That even if we ended up in different places, different relationships, different futures, we'd never really lose each other. Something about the way he said it sent a chill down my spine. You got tattoos for that? I asked. Ryan let out a dry laugh. It felt significant at the time. We always planned to do it, but we never got around to it. Until now. I challenged. He sighed. Yeah, a week before my wedding. I emphasized. Ryan looked away. Yes. I let the silence hang between us for a long moment before I asked, and you're telling me that this has nothing to do with me? He flinched, just barely. But I caught it. Ryan. My voice was quieter now, but there was an edge to it. What aren't you telling me? He exhaled, pressing his fingers against his forehead. I can't be the one to say it. My stomach twisted. Say what? Ryan looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw real guilt in his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. But you need to ask Jake. That was all I needed to hear. I grabbed my coat and stormed out of his apartment, ignoring his protests behind me. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone, dialing Jake's number again. This time, he picked up on the first ring. Emily, he breathed. Listen, I know how this looks. I'm coming over. I cut him off. And you're going to tell me the truth. Jake hesitated. Okay. I hung up and drove straight to his place. By the time I arrived at Jake's apartment, my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. He was waiting at the door when I pulled up. His expression tense. I barely registered his appearance, his hair disheveled, his face drawn, as I marched past him into the apartment. Start talking, I demanded. Jake shut the door behind us, rubbing his face. Emily, I need you to understand. No, I interrupted. No more stalling. No more cryptic bullshit. Tell me why you and Ryan got matching tattoos last week. And tell me why you've both been acting so damn weird ever since. Jake's hands curled into fists at his sides. He didn't meet my eyes. Because we had to, he said finally. I stared at him. What? Jake exhaled slowly. Because it was a promise we made to each other a long time ago. And because, he swallowed hard. Because we knew we'd never get another chance. A cold, sinking feeling settled in my gut. Another chance at what? I whispered. Jake finally lifted his gaze to mine, and in that moment, I knew deep in my bones, that whatever he was about to say would change everything. At us, he said. At what we used to be. The room spun. What do you mean, what you used to be? My voice was barely above a whisper. Jake's jaw clenched. Ryan and I, we were together, Emily. The words barely registered. Together? Together how? What? I stammered. Jake's throat bobbed as he swallowed. Back in college. Before you and I even met. I took a step back, my body going numb. Wait. Are you telling me you and Ryan? I couldn't even finish the sentence. Jake looked at me, his expression raw. I loved him, he admitted. And a part of me always will. My world tilted off its axis. Everything, the stolen glances, the hushed conversations, the tension I couldn't quite place. All of it suddenly made sense. Ryan wasn't just my brother. He was Jake's ex. And Jake, my fiancé, was still in love with him. I sucked in a sharp breath, shaking my head. No. This can't be happening. Jake stepped forward, his voice breaking. Emily, please. I held up a hand. Don't. My entire body was trembling now. Were you ever going to tell me? Jake hesitated. That was answer enough. A sharp, hollow laugh bubbled up in my throat. Wow. Just wow. Emily, don't. I turned on my heel, heading for the door. Where are you going? He called after me. I paused, glancing back at him. My fiancé. My brother's secret. I don't know, I said honestly. But I sure as hell won't be walking down the aisle next week. Then I walked out the door and into the cold night, leaving Jake and his secrets behind. The cold night air stung my face as I stepped out of Jake's apartment, but I barely noticed. My mind was racing, a tangled mess of memories, emotions, and realizations that didn't seem to belong in my reality. Jake and Ryan, my fiancé and my brother. I didn't know where I was going, only that I needed to be anywhere but here. I got into my car and started driving, gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My breaths came in shallow gasps, like I had just been punched in the stomach. How long had they been hiding this? Had I ever truly known Jake at all? Or Ryan? I felt sick. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I heard my phone vibrating. I ignored it at first, but when it wouldn't stop, I finally glanced at the screen. Ryan. I let it ring out. He called again. And again. Finally, I answered, my voice hoarse. What? Emily, where are you? Ryan sounded frantic, breathless, like he had been running. Why do you care? I shot back. I do care, damn it. I need to talk to you. Face to face. Please, Em. I almost hung up. Almost told him to go to hell. But then something in his voice made me pause. Desperation. It was the same way he had sounded when he was 12 and got caught sneaking out. The same way he had sounded when he crashed Dad's car at 16 and begged me not to tell our parents. And suddenly, I realized this wasn't just my world falling apart. It was his too. Fine. I muttered. Your place. Now. I hung up before he could say anything else and turned my car toward Ryan's apartment. By the time I arrived, Ryan was already waiting at the door, pacing. His hair was a mess, and his face was drawn tight with something I didn't quite recognize. Guilt, maybe. The moment I stepped out of the car, he rushed toward me. Em, listen. I put up a hand. No. You're going to shut up and let me talk first. He swallowed hard but nodded. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. How long? Ryan hesitated. Emily. How long, Ryan? He exhaled. Since college. A bitter laugh escaped me. Wow. Since college. So this wasn't just some one-time mistake. You two were a thing before I even met Jake. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. It wasn't just a thing. Em. His voice was quiet. It was real. Something sharp twisted in my chest. So what? You guys broke up, and then you just, what? Handed him over to me. No. Ryan looked horrified. God, no. It wasn't like that. We didn't break up because we wanted to. I scoffed. Oh, so what, then? The universe just forced you apart. Ryan's jaw clenched. Yeah, actually. That's exactly what happened. I froze. Ryan sighed and gestured toward the door. Come inside. Please. I'll tell you everything. I should have walked away. I should have left and never looked back. But I didn't. Because no matter how much I hated him in this moment, he was still my brother. And I needed the truth. I sat stiffly on Ryan's couch, my arms crossed. He sat across from me, looking more exhausted than I had ever seen him. He took a deep breath. Jake and I met in college. We were best friends first, but things changed. We fell for each other. Hard. I said nothing. Ryan rubbed his face. We kept it a secret. I wasn't ready to come out, and neither was Jake. But it didn't matter, because we were happy. I still said nothing. Then Mom found out. That got my attention. My head snapped up. Mom. Ryan let out a humorless laugh. Yeah. She saw some texts between us on my phone. She lost it. Said it was a phase, that I was confused. That Jake was corrupting me. I felt like I was going to be sick. She made me end it, Ryan continued, voice hollow. She told me if I didn't, she'd tell Dad. And I knew what that meant. Dad. Our father, strict, conservative, the kind of man who thought tough love was the answer to everything. I suddenly remembered how, during our teenage years, Ryan had always been the golden boy. The one who could do no wrong. The one who made Dad proud. And I thought about what Dad would have done if he had found out his perfect son wasn't who he wanted him to be. I shuddered. I ended it. Ryan said. His voice cracked. I told Jake we couldn't be together. I cut him off completely. I broke his damn heart, and mine too. I stared at him. My vision blurry with something I didn't want to name. And then you met him, Ryan continued, his expression pained. Years later, when I saw you two together. I thought I could handle it. I thought I was over it. But I wasn't. I swallowed hard. So what? You just decided to reopen old wounds a week before my wedding. Ryan flinched. We didn't plan it like that. I swear. It started as just catching up. And then we talked about the past. And it all came back. Everything we never got to say, never got to have. The tattoos, they were supposed to be our closure. Closure. I felt like I had been hit by a truck. You don't get to say goodbye to someone you never left, I whispered. You chose this, Ryan. You chose to keep this from me. Ryan's eyes were glassy. I know. We sat there, silent. Then, after what felt like forever, I whispered the question that had been clawing at my chest. Do you still love him? Ryan let out a shuddering breath. Yes. I closed my eyes, pressing my fingers against my temples. And Jake? Ryan hesitated. Then, softer, I think a part of him always will. I felt my heart break all over again. Jake had said he loved me, had wanted to marry me, had promised me a future. But now, I wasn't sure if any of it had been real. I stood up. I can't do this. Ryan. He shot up too. I can't. My voice cracked. I can't marry someone who's still in love with my brother. And I sure as hell can't look at you the same way ever again. Ryan's face crumpled. Emily, please. I never meant. I don't care. My voice was ice. You two can figure out whatever the hell this is. But I'm done. Ryan took a step toward me. But I stepped back. Don't. I warned. He stopped. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I hope you got your closure, Ryan, I said, voice shaking. Because you just lost your sister. And with that, I walked out. Out of Ryan's apartment. Out of the life I thought I had. And out of the love I thought was mine. I don't remember driving home. The entire world around me felt like static, white noise buzzing in my ears, my vision blurred, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly they ached. It felt as if I were watching someone else's life unravel from a distance, like an out-of-body experience. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the weight of reality came crashing down all at once. I barely made it inside before I collapsed onto the floor, pressing my forehead against the cool hardwood, gasping for air. I wanted to scream, to cry, to undo everything. But there was no going back. Jake still loved Ryan. Ryan still loved Jake. And I had been nothing more than a temporary placeholder in a love story that had started long before I even entered the picture. A week before my wedding. How did I not see it? Every memory of the past 3 years twisted in my mind, like puzzle pieces snapping together in all the wrong ways. The way Jake always hesitated when talking about his past relationships. The way Ryan always seemed uneasy around him, yet never truly distant. The way my fiancé and my brother would share these silent moments, ones I had written off as brotherly bonding. But now knew were something much more complicated. I had been blind. And now, I had to make a choice. The next morning, my phone was a war zone. 18 missed calls from Jake. 12 from Ryan. Several from my mom, my maid of honor, and a few concerned texts from friends who had likely sensed something was wrong. I ignored them all. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table. staring at the wedding invitations stacked neatly in a pile, untouched. They felt like relics of a life that wasn't mine anymore. I picked up one and ran my fingers over the embossed gold lettering. Together with their families, Emily Carter and Jacob Reed invite you to celebrate their wedding on. I traced over my own name as if I could erase it. A sharp knock at the door made me jump. I knew who it was before I even stood up. I took my time walking over, gripping the doorknob before finally pulling it open. Jake stood there, looking like he hadn't slept. His hair was disheveled, his eyes bloodshot, his face lined with exhaustion. Emily, he exhaled, his voice raw. Can we talk? I didn't move. Why? Haven't you already told me everything? His jaw tightened. I didn't want you to find out like this. I let out a hollow laugh. Oh, well, thank you for that. Really? I feel so much better knowing that you plan to keep me in the dark forever. Jake flinched. It wasn't like that, eh? Then what was it like, Jake? My voice rose. Was I just, what? A way to move on? A distraction? His lips parted, but he didn't have an answer. I swallowed hard. Did you ever even love me? Of course I loved you. His voice cracked. I still do. I shook my head. No, Jake. You love Ryan. His silence was the confirmation I needed. Tears burned at the back of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Tell me the truth, I whispered. If Ryan had never left, if your relationship had never ended, would you have ever been with me? Jake hesitated. That was enough. I took a step back, wrapping my arms around myself. I can't do this, I murmured. I won't do this. Jake's eyes widened. Emily, please. I cut him off. The wedding is off. A deep, fractured silence filled the space between us. Jake's shoulders slumped as if the weight of my words physically crushed him. He looked at me. And for the first time in our entire relationship, I saw him clearly. A man torn between two lives. Between what he wanted and what he thought he should want. And for the first time, I pitied him. I inhaled shakily. I hope you figure out what you really want, Jake. But it's not me. I shut the door before he could respond. I thought that would be the hardest part. But it wasn't. The hardest part came later, when I had to explain to my parents, my friends, my wedding vendors why my perfect, beautiful, carefully planned day was no longer happening. My mom took it the worst. What do you mean you're calling it off? She demanded over the phone. The venue is booked. The guests are coming. We have thousands of dollars put into this wedding, Emily. I don't care. My voice was quiet but firm. She spluttered. Is this about Jake? Did you two fight? Honey, every couple has cold feet before the big day. You just need to. I don't need to do anything. I interrupted. Jake isn't who I thought he was. A pause. Then she sighed. Is this about Ryan? My breath hitched. She knew. She had always known. The realization hit me like a brick to the chest. You knew. My voice was barely above a whisper. You knew about them, didn't you? My mother was quiet for a long moment before she finally said, Your father didn't want you to know. A bitter laugh bubbled up in my throat. Unbelievable. Emily. I hung up. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. I just felt done. In the days that followed, I packed up everything that reminded me of Jake. The framed photos, the gifts, the little notes he used to leave me on the fridge. By the end of the week, my house felt empty. But for the first time in a long time, I felt lighter. I didn't know what came next. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to look at Ryan the same way again. But I did know this. I deserved better. And I was finally ready to start choosing myself for once. On what would have been my wedding day, I didn't cry. I didn't sit around feeling sorry for myself. I booked a solo trip to the coast, packed my bags, and left town. As I drove past the city limits, my engagement ring sat on the passenger seat beside me. I rolled down the window, picked it up between my fingers, and without a second thought, I tossed it out into the wind. And then I drove forward, without looking back. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking Reddit cheating stories happening around you.